Listen carefully. This message is very telling, and it will not remain available for long. If you are hearing this now, understand this clearly. God timed this moment on purpose. This is important because God does not always repeat himself. In the past, you may have missed signs, questioned what you felt, or waited longer than you wanted to. Those delays were not rejection, they were preparation. Now the window is narrowing, and this message is confirmation that what God said is active right now, not later. Now this is directly for you. You are in alignment. God is no longer shaping you in private. He is positioning you publicly. Things will shift fast. Certain doors will close without explanation, while new opportunities will open suddenly. Pay close attention to what ends and what accelerates. This is not confusion. This is divine order moving you forward. Before you go any further, you need to subscribe. Do not skip this. Subscribing keeps you connected to messages like this that many will miss. Like the video so this reaches the right people, share it with someone who needs this confirmation, and leave a comment to show you received it. This message found you for a reason. Stay connected, stay alert, and don't delay. This was not a casual moment. God did not whisper this for background noise. What just happened in your life, what you felt, noticed, or couldn't shake, was intentional. Heaven leaned in, and something shifted. The reason this feels heavy is because it carries truth, and truth always presses on the soul before it liberates it. God allowed this sign to surface now because ignoring it would mean delaying what has already been set in motion. You weren't meant to scroll past this season of your life. You weren't meant to treat this signal like another passing thought. God uses moments like this when the soul is quiet enough to listen, but restless enough to change. The discomfort you feel is not fear, it's recognition. Something inside you knows this is different, and that inner knowing is not accidental. This sign was telling because it marked a turning point. God does not interrupt your life unless direction is required. The reason this message feels urgent is because the path ahead is splitting, and awareness decides which road you walk. Ignoring this sign doesn't cancel destiny, but it complicates the journey. This message carries weight because it carries timing. Some divine instructions expire, not because God withdraws them, but because seasons move forward whether you're ready or not. Right now, you are standing in a narrow window where obedience meets opportunity. Delay here would not be neutral, it would be costly. God is not rushing you, but He is warning you. Preparation can no longer be postponed. You have had time to reflect, time to heal, time to question. But now comes the moment to act. This urgency is not pressure, it's alignment calling you forward. When God speaks with clarity, it's because movement is required. Chosen ones often mistake patience for permission to wait. But patience is preparation, not paralysis. This message will not linger because what comes next will demand readiness. You are being asked to step up, not later, not gradually, but now, before the door begins to close. God arranged the sign perfectly, and that's why you missed it. It didn't come as thunder or spectacle. It came quietly, wrapped in repetition, appearing again and again until it blended into normal life. That's how divine signals are often overlooked, because they don't scream, they persist. You saw it through repeated situations, familiar warnings, and inner nudges you brushed aside. God placed the same message in different forms, hoping recognition would finally settle in. But overexposure can numb awareness. What was once extraordinary began to feel ordinary, and that's where the miss happened. God is not condemning you for missing it. He's revealing it now so you don't miss the next one. This message itself is a recovery signal. Heaven is recalibrating your vision, pulling your attention back to what truly matters before momentum carries you too far off course. There is something inside you that has been dormant, not inactive, just waiting. This is what can be called the God gene, a spiritual sensitivity placed within you before you ever understood its purpose. It activates when truth is near, when alignment is required, when destiny draws closer than comfort allows. This activation doesn't come through motivation or hype. It awakens through surrender, awareness, and obedience. That's why the last season forced you inward. God had to quiet external noise so internal clarity could rise. The restlessness you felt is not confusion, it's awakening pressure. When this inner gene activates, perception changes. You begin to see through illusion, feel truth faster, and recognize when something is off, even if you can't explain why. This is not imagination. It is preparation. God only awakens what He intends to use. The last 3 years were not random hardship. They were a cycle, a spiritual process designed to break old patterns, expose false foundations, and strip away what could not come with you. That's why this period felt repetitive, heavy, and emotionally demanding. Cycles repeat lessons until the soul understands. This cycle represented spiritual death, the death of old identities, outdated beliefs, and misplaced trust. You were forced to let go of versions of yourself that could not survive where you were going. Loss was part of the design, not punishment. Now, the cycle is closing, and with its ending comes rebirth. But rebirth requires readiness. What you do now determines whether you step into renewal prepared or stumble forwards unready. God is not testing you anymore. He is transitioning you. This cycle was never about comfort. It was about transformation. Spiritual death does not mean the end of you. It means the end of what no longer fits your calling. Over the last 3 years, God allowed certain attachments to fade, certain relationships to fracture, and certain beliefs to collapse because carrying them forward would have limited you. What felt like loss was actually release. Rebirth begins quietly. It doesn't arrive with applause or instant clarity. It starts as a subtle shift in perception, where things that once satisfied you no longer do, and truths you once avoided now demand attention. This is the uncomfortable middle space where the old self has died, but the new self has not fully risen. Many abandon the process here, mistaking the silence for abandonment. But God never leaves during rebirth. He withdraws noise so growth can happen unseen. Just as seeds grow underground before breaking the surface, your transformation has been happening in hidden ways. This rebirth is not optional, it is necessary. What emerges next will be stronger, clearer, and aligned with truth rather than survival. What comes next is not a continuation of the old path. It is a reset. God is not patching what was broken. He is replacing it entirely. This new beginning is not built on past wounds or old habits, but on awareness gained through struggle. That's why reflection was required before movement. A divine reset doesn't erase memory, it redefines meaning. You will begin to see why delays happened, why doors closed, and why certain prayers went unanswered. God was not denying you. He was protecting the future version of you from premature exposure. Timing mattered more than speed. This new beginning demands alignment. Old coping mechanisms, emotional crutches, and distractions cannot come with you. God is not asking you to be fearless. He's asking you to be honest. This reset will only work if you step into it fully awake, not half prepared. Few reach this stage because few endure the earlier ones without compromise. The seventh stage represents integration, where lessons become wisdom and pain becomes purpose. It is the point where inner conflict settles and clarity takes its place. You don't react the same anymore. You respond differently. That shift is evidence of growth. At this level, awareness sharpens. You sense misalignment quickly, and tolerance for deception, especially self-deception, disappears. This stage demands responsibility because influence increases here. God does not elevate without expectation. What you carry now has weight, and how you handle it matters. Reaching this stage is why the pressure intensified near the end of the cycle. Resistance often increases right before breakthrough. God allows one final stretch of refinement before release. You are not regressing. You are being strengthened for what comes next. When preparation meets surrender, divine intervention follows. God responds to readiness. The reason this upgrade is inevitable is because you have endured without abandoning the process. You questioned, struggled, and doubted, but you stayed. That persistence matters. This upgrade is not about status or recognition. It's about capacity. God is expanding what you can hold emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. That's why you were tested in isolation. Before influence comes mastery of self. Before authority comes humility. God does not force upgrades, but He honors alignment. When you finally let go of control, space was created for intervention. What is coming will feel sudden, but it has been building quietly for a long time. Preparation is not fear, it is wisdom. God is urging you to prepare because what's ahead moves fast. Once the cycle fully closes, momentum takes over. There will be less time to adjust and more responsibility to respond correctly. Preparation means removing distractions, confronting inner resistance, and choosing discipline over comfort. Anything misaligned now will feel heavier later. God is offering this moment as grace, a chance to stabilize before acceleration. This is not about perfection, it's about positioning. Those who prepare don't panic when change arrives, they recognize it. What you do in this moment determines whether the next season overwhelms you or elevates you. The reason you began overlooking God's signals is subtle but critical: familiarity. When something repeats too often, your mind assumes it's normal, safe, or irrelevant. But God's signs rarely come with fanfare. They come in whispers, in coincidences, in feelings that make you pause for a second, then pass by. That ordinary feeling is the very trap that hides the extraordinary. God designed this pattern intentionally. He wanted to test whether your attention was genuine, whether your awareness was alive, or whether your heart was numbed by routine. When miracles appear as mundane, the soul is being asked, "Are you awake enough to see me in every moment?" Ignoring it now would be like walking past a doorway that leads straight to destiny. Recognizing the extraordinary within the ordinary requires vigilance and honesty. God's signals are persistent, sometimes repetitive, and sometimes disguised as challenge or discomfort. The ordinary is only ordinary if you fail to notice it. Wakefulness is a choice, and now is the time to choose it fully. God doesn't always speak with thunder. Often he speaks through that subtle inner voice, the one that nudges, warns, or calls you when no one else is looking. That voice is not imagination or anxiety. It's divine programming. It is your soul receiving guidance from the part of you that is connected to the infinite. This inner voice has been persistent for years, sometimes in ways you could ignore, sometimes in ways that made no sense. It was meant to teach patience, attentiveness, and trust. Each time you hesitated, it came back. Every time you paused, it whispered again. That is how God trains readiness. Ignoring it now is no longer an option. That voice is rising because the moment for intervention is near. It is calling you to act, to align, and to awaken fully. Those who respond are prepared for what comes next. Those who delay may find the opportunities have passed. Repetition can be a blessing or a curse. When spiritual lessons repeat without attention, they risk becoming background noise. That is why you may have felt frustrated, numb, or even skeptical of what God was signaling. The repetition was never pointless. It was refining focus, testing commitment, and separating the attentive from the distracted. Every repeated warning, lesson, or nudge was a mirror, showing where you resisted, where your habits blocked growth, or where your perception lagged. Ignoring repetition is dangerous because what is repeated is rarely random. God's insistence is intentional, and repeated exposure is meant to awaken recognition, not complacency. Now repetition is escalating into clarity. What once felt ordinary is about to demand response. The cycle is ending, and if you fail to internalize these repeated messages, you risk moving into the next stage unprepared. Truth waits for no one who hesitates. You are standing at a rare spiritual threshold. God's hand is no longer just guiding you through circumstances. He is ready to intervene directly. This level of intervention is reserved for those who have endured the previous cycles, aligned themselves internally, and allowed the God gene to awaken. It is both an honor and a responsibility. When divine intervention occurs, events shift in ways that human effort alone cannot produce. Barriers dissolve, clarity accelerates, and paths previously hidden become visible. But intervention requires readiness. If you approach this moment half-prepared, the impact diminishes. If you approach it awake, the transformation is monumental. This is why urgency is non-negotiable. Every choice, every alignment, every removal of distraction matters. God cannot force readiness, but He will reward it when it is offered willingly. You are being given a window, and the divine is poised to act if you meet it with courage. Nothing moves forward until preparation is complete. God is calling you to examine your life with brutal honesty. What habits, attachments, fears, or distractions are binding you? What relationships, environments, or patterns are dulling your awareness? Now is the time to confront them before the cycle closes. Acting now means removing resistance, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Alignment is more than intention. It is purification, honesty, and willingness to respond without delay. Every block cleared accelerates awakening. Every compromise ignored slows it. The call is clear: prepare, awaken, and align. Opportunities are immediate and will not wait. This is your final chance to step fully into the seventh stage, into rebirth, into the divine reset. God has orchestrated everything: signs, cycles, interventions to bring you here. Do not ignore the moment. The door is open, but only for those who act. At the end, thank you for watching. This message is shared as a guiding light and inspiration to help you reflect, align, and take meaningful steps in your life. It is designed to encourage awareness, growth, and positive action, and is not intended to replace your own decisions, professional guidance, or personal responsibility. If this message touched you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps share more spiritual insights and awakening guidance with others seeking clarity and direction. Remember, the signs are all around you. Your inner voice is real, and the choices you make today can create powerful transformation in your life. Stay awake, stay aligned, and trust your journey.